participation portion of the agenda. If anyone is watching this meeting live and has questions or comments to share, they are encouraged to email one of us during the meeting, and we'll read those during our second public input session at the end of the meeting. So welcome to this meeting of the Chelmsford School Committee. Before we start, I just want to apologize to anyone who tuned in to see our scheduled meeting on Tuesday. The original purpose of meeting Tuesday was make sure that everyone that was interested would be able to hear the latest information about what the school district is doing to address the educational, emotional, and physical needs of our students. But given the governor's recommendation on Monday to stay at home and avoid large groups as much as possible, we thought it would be best to cancel the meeting on that time. Knowing that the superintendent will be having meetings with state leaders and other superintendents this week, we felt it best to meet again today to get the most recent updates. Our goal as a committee is to relate to you whatever information we have regarding what is being done to help our students, but it is an ever-evolving process. To that end, we will endeavor to have meetings like this on a regular basis to provide you with the most up-to-date information we can. All right, so to start, and for the record, could we just go around to verify participation of all the committee members and members of the administration? So Donna Newcomb.
Here.
Jeff Doherty.
Here.
Maria Santos.
I'm here.
Superintendent Lang.
I'm here.
Assistant Superintendent Hirsch.
Here.
And our recording secretary, Sharon Gilio, is here also. All right. John Moses is currently not with us. If he should join the meeting, we'll let you know, as well as.
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Sharon.
I forgot to turn the mic on.
That's fine. And if Joanna Johnson Collins, our Director of Business and Finance, would meet us, joins the meeting, we'll also let you know then too. Okay, so the first order of business is to approve our meeting minutes from our meeting on March 3rd. So I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes from the school committee meeting on March 3rd.
Right. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Donna Newcomb and a second from Maria Santos. Any comments or corrections on the minutes? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Donna?
Aye.
Maria?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Okay, so 4-0, minutes were approved. Okay, we're now to the public comment, public input part of our meeting. If any members have received any emails or questions or comments, this would be the time to share them. So we'll go around individually. If you have any emails you received and you would like to read them into the record, we'll do that. So Jeff, do you have any? Jeff Doherty, do you have any?
No, I don't.
Okay. Donna Newcomb?
Yes, I've received some concerns from parents, and I thought that we could address them under our expectations for learning, and specifically related to grading, grade advancement, AP classes, SATs, and juniors going into their senior year next year.
Okay. Okay, Maria Santos?
Yes. Same thing. Several emails and texts about the same type of issues. Concerns that we may start up too early, too soon, and concerns about what's being done for seniors at the end of this year. Again, we can address it as we go on in the agenda.
Okay, I have a couple as well, and I'll try to paraphrase. And most of these I do believe will be addressed as we get into the body of our meeting. But just to put out there, one email was actually from a group of high school students. They too wanted to know what was going to happen for the third term grades. They were wondering whether or not they would be communicating with their teachers and classmates through a platform such as Zoom. They wanted to know, well, if they were not able to get to all the material they need for their courses, and those courses were prerequisites, whether they would need to do some summer work to meet the prerequisites for those courses. They also were concerned about meeting with their guidance counselors in terms of selecting courses for next year. Parent was concerned about if their student would need to get materials for online learning, would they have access to the building. The following was a statement that Hannah Barker wanted me to read in terms of helping families in town. So she wrote, the Council of Chelmsford Schools would like to take the opportunity to remind everyone that together with the Table of Plenty, food donations will be collected Wednesday morning from 9 to noon at the back door of Harrington, door number 6, for the benefit of students and families in need in Chelmsford. Non-perishable foods, cleaning supplies, and gift certificates to local restaurants will be accepted and used to support our families in need. If that donation time is not convenient, the Chelmsford Food Pantry accepts donations on Thursdays from 10:30 a.m. to 1 and 6:45 to 7:45 p.m. The pantry is open for picking up food on Wednesdays from 5 to 8 p.m., Thursdays from 2 to 4 p.m., and Fridays from 6:30 to 8 p.m., and Saturdays from noon to 1:30, although the Saturday time is only available till April 18th. Approximately 1/5 of the Chelmsford students receive free and reduced price lunches, and during this unprecedented time, many families will struggle. We're all in this together. Any donation will be gratefully accepted. Thank you, and stay safe at home, Hannah Marker. I've also received a couple of emails from parents in terms of special education services from Lori McCarran. She first wanted to thank the teachers that have been reaching out and thank the creative parents and professionals that are helping to navigate homeschooling ideas. She's appreciative of the school committee and administration for reaching out and responding to people in a timely fashion. She also wanted to thank Amy Reese and the CPAC for helping address specific concerns regarding children on IEPs. She herself is involved at the state level at State Special Education Panel, who's been in contact with the Director of Special Education Planning, and talked about how DESE continues to look for meaningful guidance from parents and professionals during this epidemic, where it concerns the needs for technology, home support, and emphasis on mental health for our students with special needs. Also from Allie Barnes, who is also involved with special education, she wanted to urge us to make some sort of public statement related to special education, updating the curriculum website so that it states the plans, the process, and who parents should contact. And another parent had concerns about iReady and whether it was closed caption for those students that have hearing impairments. And then finally, another parent concerned about grading for this year, particularly for our juniors, since they are not, the APs have been changed, the SATs have been changed, and she's concerned about their grades on their college transcripts. She was also interested in what would happen with the dual enrollment programs, whether they're continuing or not, and if they're not continuing, whether or not there would be a refund if the students weren't able to get college credits. So those are what I have for emails. Superintendent Lang, do you have anything?
No, mine sound duplicative to what you just read. Two out of the three were the same that you had expressed interest in.
Okay.
I hadn't received actually too many, but you covered the topics that came through in the emails that I received as well.
Okay, great. So just a reminder, if anybody's watching this live and you have more questions, you can email us and we'll check our emails as the meeting goes on, and we can bring those up at our second public input portion of our meeting, which is at the end of the meeting. Okay, so now we're moving on to new business. So I will turn it over to Superintendent Lang.
Thank you. Yeah, just thought this was a good opportunity to give another update with regard to kind of where we're at. When we talked last Friday, we didn't at that point in time know that we were going to be out for an extended closure. I think I had prefaced in my remarks that we were at that point looking at least a 3-week closure, and we were preparing for that. But we also had a sense that we weren't going to be going back on April 6th. So it looked like it was going to be extended likely through at least the end of April. And then there was also the long shot idea of not going back at all this year. So we kind of had 3 different modes of planning in place, and they do remain. I think it was the middle of the week, I believe Wednesday, the governor had held the press conference to talk about school closure through May 6th, May 4th. May 4th. So that put us out even a week longer than we had anticipated. I don't think any of us was surprised that it was going out through the end of April. I think a lot of the superintendent groups were talking about how maybe a nice transition might be after April school vacation, but it's going out even a week beyond that at this point. So that was the only 2 surprises, were that extra week being added coming out of the gate. And then secondly, we received no advance notice of the governor's press conference. So the phone was kind of blowing up on Wednesday afternoon as the press conference was happening. And we got the notice that we were going to be out through May 4th. So that's what was surprising to us. Internally in the district, it didn't really change a lot of planning that was taking place because we had already started to kind of shift to a mid-range plan, which was going to be 4 weeks, 3 to 6, if that was the case. Now we're looking at weeks 3 to 7. So we can talk a little bit about that and what's been happening. And then I do want you to know that, we do continue to plan for, in the background, if there ever is a decision to be made at a later time, that we won't go back at all for the rest of the school year. That obviously has certain implications, and a lot of people kind of nervous about what that means. I think that's when a lot of the high school issues come into play, particularly around like the senior class and what would happen with graduations and proms and all the different senior activities. So I don't have a lot of firsthand answers for you on that today, and I actually don't have a lot of answers even on a lot of the other issues that we need to deal with, because we're still only finishing week 2 right now of this closure. I am in the middle of preparing with Linda a communication to go to families later on today to just give them a little update with regard to the situation, to let them know where we're at with our district planning, guidance that we're providing our staff in the district as far as moving forward over the next month or so of learning. So hopefully that will be finalized this afternoon. We were waiting for the Commissioner of Ed yesterday. They had told us by midweek, and it did come yesterday, that we'd received some guidance from them around what kind of distance learning, or now what they're actually terming remote learning, the expectations around what that would be during this closure, trying to provide some general guidelines to districts about what you should be thinking about doing, not doing. A lot is going to be deferred to the local level, and there is a lot of work already taking place within Chelmsford, but then even just within the greater Merrimack Valley with regard to kind of where districts are at. We actually have an important call this afternoon at 2:30 with the larger Merrimack Valley Superintendents Group to try to see, now that we've all had a day to read through that guiding document from the DOE, kind of where we're at with it. Likely talk about putting out some type of a joint statement from the Merrimack Valley group, similar to what we did when we had that first 2-week closure a couple of weeks back. What I can tell you, our focus last week on was really purely health and safety of our students and families and staff. We spent a lot of time, as you recall, I talked about last Friday, kind of getting our food feeding site up and going at the high school. That has gone really well. Nancy Angelini and the food service staff have done a phenomenal job of staffing that and providing that resource to our families in the community, and even families of students in the community. No one is being turned away if they're in need of a meal, and I'm very happy that we've been able to step forward and staff that. We've been serving just shy of about 200 meals per day at the high school. That will continue. We are actually talking about in the future possibly tweaking the hours a little bit. Right now, we were open Monday through Friday from 4:30 to 6 o'clock, but we're actually seeing more people coming around 4 o'clock. So for right now, if they happen to come early, we're obviously feeding them, but we may think about beyond week 3, possibly changing the hours of that site. But if that does happen, we'll push notification, but it would only move by a half an hour. We might just back up the start time to 4 o'clock instead of 4:30. But we're going to try to keep that staffed and running. I think that, again, has been a great resource, and we want to be able to continue with that. Today, we officially launched kind of the first day of our partnership, as Dennis had mentioned earlier in the communication he received from Hannah. We had a lot of parents reaching out to us to see how they could help or how they could participate during this time. And it's very difficult when you're in kind of crisis mode, figuring out planning and coordination and whatnot, to introduce a lot of kind of people outside your organization to help, even though they may want to. So one of the things that we did team up with is, we know as a district, Monday through Friday, we're able to take care of our families' nutritional needs, but on the weekends, we don't have a food service site open. So what we did do is team up with Table of Plenty. Mary Moriarty and her group have been very helpful, kind of getting some donations for us. I reached out to Hannah, and she in turn reached out to the PTOs and the Council of Schools to push that if parents wanted to be able to help and contribute during this time, a great way to do so would be to donate some non-perishable items. And Rob Asselin, the principal of Harrington School, stepped up and said we could use his kitchen. I'm sorry, not his kitchen, his cafeteria, to coordinate the receiving of the items and the packaging of them and the sending out to families. So on Wednesdays, between 9 and 12, 9 a.m. to 12 noon, if anyone in town would like to drop off any non-perishable items to families, they may do so. They just drive to the Harrington Elementary School. They drive around back near the playground. And door number 6 has a nice sign on it that's open for drop-offs. And people can park their car, walk in, and there's a table area where they can just drop off the food. They don't need to come in contact with anyone and make a donation for us. And then at that point, once the donations are in, the Table of Plenty group will use the cafeteria to sort all the different items we have. And they're actually either using bags or boxes to make to go home to our families on Fridays. So they came in on Wednesday. They helped with the food reception. They made about 40 plus boxes or bags of food to go out to some of our struggling families. And then today, this morning, between 10 and 2 this afternoon, we actually had our bus company, we contracted with them to make deliveries to the homes. So they came by the Harrington, they picked up about 38 or 39 boxes and bags of food to go out to some of our families and dropped it off to their homes so that they would have some nourishment over the weekend when our food service site is not in operation. So I thought that was a really nice program. So that is a true partnership because you have some parent involvement, you have the Table of Plenty involvement, and then you also have, our contracted transportation providers helping out to actually bring the meals to the homes. So we did that internally last Friday, but this Friday was the first day that it worked very well this week, and that's going to continue through this closure. So what I would stress, and we've been putting out materials, if people do want to participate and help out, a great way to do so is to drop off some non-perishable items on Wednesday mornings, and then we'll help coordinate with our families on Fridays. Schooling wise, again, we said the first week, last week, we really treated like snow days within the district. So there were really no expectations beyond what would normally happen on a snow day as far as, curriculum or content, things along those lines with families. Week 2, because we knew this was going to be at least a 3-week outage, Linda and her curriculum coordinators and the building principals put together some guiding documents for our staff to be able to start to talk about what expectations would look like for this current week that is just concluding, and then also week 3, which begins next Monday. We had to allow our staff back into the buildings this past, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, to be able to go into the classrooms and pick up some materials if they had left them behind, because when we left on Friday the 13th, it was kind of towards the end of the day that we made the decision, and a lot of people packed what they had to for the weekend, but they weren't thinking they'd be out of school for 6 or 7 weeks at the time. So we allowed them to come back into the building, get materials that they needed, also pick up any type of technologies that they might need during this extended closure. And then we also, towards the middle and end of the week, started to have remote school level meetings, department level meetings, grade level meetings, even within schools, using a GoToMeeting format like this, so that we could reconnect with our staff, let them know what was going on, let them start to plan on their own for how they want to start making some contact with families. And our big ask was that just, in fact, they did that, that this week that they reached out to their families, they made contact with their students, by phone, by email. A lot actually had, we use Google products, so a lot actually had Google meetings with their kids to be able to just, again, check in on them, let them know that they're there for them. A lot of kids really haven't had the opportunity in a couple of weeks to even see their classmates. So that was great that they could get on the computer together and see each other. So that was ongoing. A lot of our staff also participated in some professional development and training around some of the different technologies that we support in the district, including, Google Classroom and G Suite and all the different apps that are offered. So that was ongoing and taking place. Trying to get people to just a comfort level with the technology that's available to them, so that we can start to move into, what remote learning for us is going to look like over the next, week to 6 weeks or so. The plan also this week, when families made contact with, when staff made contact with families, was to kind of perform a safety check, check on kids. Are there any needs in the home, whether it be, again, nutritional or whatnot, even technology-wise. We had, asked them to identify students that might not have proper technology in their house, who might need a laptop to be able to stay connected. So that was ongoing. We identified students that way. We also, this is a point I forgot to mention, but with the feeding programs, both at the high school, they've obviously been pushing that with all of their families, but particularly their free and reduced lunch families, to make sure they knew that resource was available. And a lot of the schools were also able to kind of screen and provide additional families to us to participate in the Friday, the weekend feeding program, where they had food dropped off to them. So the counseling staff has been great with that. Our nursing staff has been great with that, and reaching out and kind of making those family contacts. So that has happened this week as well. And then next week, we're going to focus in the beginning part of the week on allowing, kids to, and this is still being coordinated right now, but if they've been identified that they needed materials, be able to stop by the school and pick up, say, a Chromebook or whatever the material was. We're still internally trying to figure out, a particular day, a window of time to allow kids to be able to come back to the school to pick up, it sounds crazy, but even just like musical instruments that got left behind, or books and notebooks and things like this that they might need during this outage. School by school, we're figuring that out, and it's going to be communicated, again, school by school, when those hours when families might be able to stop by and pick up stuff that they may need is, just so that we can control how many people are in the buildings at the same time, and logistically make it as safe for everyone as we possibly can. So that is going to be the work of next week. And then we're also asking again, and kind of working with our teachers to, again, have them make those contacts to try to kind of create some kind of structure for their kids, so that they know scheduling wise what's going on. We're still working through what are the expectations going to be for, how frequently classes will get together, what type of, materials or activities classes will be working on with their teachers, what turnaround times would be. We've been just raising and flagging, even with the teachers. The teachers union, I have to say, has been very supportive of our actions. We've been working well with all of our union groups. Very appreciative of everyone just kind of realizing this is a dynamic time. It's an unprecedented time. Let's all just step up and do the best we can to try to get through this together. So that has really been remarkable. So I'm happy people are working with us on that front. But just trying to figure out what our learning is going to look like over the next, week to 6 weeks or so. And that's a lot of the work that's taking place right now. And we're going to continue to roll out, documents from the district, through the schools to families, to keep that information going as best we can. So that kind of summarizes last week, this current week, and next week we'll kind of shift from this week has been kind of staff focused to make sure that they're comfortable and have everything they need. Next week we'll be focusing on the kids, making sure that they're comfortable having everything that they need, and kind of a bigger launch, I guess you can call it, into supporting at the teacher level their students in classrooms and kids around some of these activities. And again, kind of continuing the discussion about what learning is going to look like during this closure for at least the next month, if not, if it gets extended through the end of the school year. So that's a little kind of status update for you with regard to what's been transpiring. But I am just, want to leave it with, really happy for the staff involvement, for the staff participation and cooperation during this time. It's truly been remarkable on all levels, from the custodial staff to food service staff to teachers and support. Everyone's willing to step up and do whatever is asked of them.
Okay, I just wanted to make note that John Moses is now with us. So John. Okay, so does anybody have any questions for the superintendent? Donna?
Just a couple comments, actually. Some of the feedback that I've been receiving is that parents would like a little bit more communication from the superintendent, and even if it's just to say that nothing is changing. So much is changing so quickly. I think that sometimes they just need a little bit of reassurance around where things are at, even if we're still in the planning and process, to kind of keep them up to date on just what the status is of things that we're doing in the district. So they just said some more communication from the district as a whole would be helpful. I was able to participate in a phone conference with CPAC Executive Board and Jen Melanson this morning. And they're going to be holding next week a roundtable discussion to be able to address the needs of caregivers. You know, what is the stress that they're under and things like that. And they were wondering if maybe either next week or the week after, that we, or members of the school department, and Lorraine Wilson in particular, would like to do a roundtable regarding just kind of the social emotional needs of kids during this time, as well as maybe some of the struggles that parents are having, balancing, helping kids with schoolwork, working from home, caring for their families, and just, again, the stress of this time. And Dr. Lang, she'll be in touch with you about that. And then finally, she's also going to put out something about the Comcast free internet connection with some contact information for families who may need that. She said that she would do that on our part, find out specifically who families need to contact and make that available, online through social media or the telemedia, so that way people will have that information.
Can I jump in for a
Anybody?
second?
Yep, go ahead.
Just to a couple of those points. On the communication front directly from the district, I've been telling parents basically that on a weekly basis, I'll be sending out some type of communication to keep them informed. Linda is actually working hard on, the schools have transitioned to kind of that s'mores newsletter, which has been well received. It's very easy to read. It's got great links. That's actually the format we're going to use for our first communication this afternoon. And then we're going to build upon that in the weeks to follow. So I am sending out weekly communications. I do know that at this point too, like staff are going to start directly working with families, and schools are going to be sending messaging as well. So that all continues. We're just trying to balance it. And I honestly, whenever I have information, I've been sharing it. There is just so much that I just still don't know that, as I get it, I do try to share it. So I'm conscious of that. The roundtable idea I like a lot, and I think if CPAC or even the social work group in the town is having those, definitely let the school side know so that people can, very easy to remote into a meeting and kind of just hear what's happening. But I can mention to Lorraine Wilson and Amy even about trying to host some kind of SEL roundtable for students and parents over the coming weeks. I don't want to duplicate anything that the other group is doing, but we can coordinate that. I think that would be a good resource.
Jen Melanson said that she'll be in touch with you to coordinate that. So.
All right, but even if there's like certain levels we have to get to or different kind of groups that we want to target, I'm totally open to that. I think that's fine. And on the Comcast piece, we're also pushing that information on the internet because as part of the screener that our staff are using at the schools, we're trying to figure out where that might be a barrier. That is open primarily to students who would qualify for some type of federal assistance. So it's our students who would qualify for free or reduced lunch. That's obviously a group that we know, that we've identified. And we are targeting direct communications to those families to see if they have internet connection, if they need it, and if they're aware of that Comcast service. So that actually is ongoing. It doesn't hurt to do it through multiple avenues, but our technology group is also performing that as well.
Hey, Maria, I think you had your hand up earlier. Yeah.
Gotta unmute me. So I'm going to read it directly because it goes to this issue. It says, I wonder when we're going to start getting on track with real assignments from teachers. Other districts are taking attendance each day and doing online teaching and assignments, sending paper packets home to those who do not have internet access, FaceTiming classes, video classes. Kudos to all the teachers for what they've done so far. It's been immense in this Chelmsford region, and we're getting there. But how quickly are we going to get to assignments that count?
Yeah, I think that's what we're actually talking about internally, even in the district, as well as with our neighboring communities in the Merrimack Valley group. there is a wide spectrum of, people at one end all the way to the other end. And I think districts are trying to figure out where they're going to fall in between. We are wrestling with some equity issues. And I don't think, one of the messages, even in my communication today, is there is going to be no replacement for real, schooling that typically took place, in our school buildings and in our school classrooms with face-to-face interactions between students and teachers. And the remote learning over the next, however many weeks it ends up being, whether it's, 5 weeks or if it ended up going through the end of the school year, we're not going to be able to replicate. And I don't want to set that expectation that what happened in a regular classroom is just going to now start happening online. Because that is going to work for, a certain population of students, a certain group of students, but that is not likely to really be realistic or even beneficial to probably the majority of students in our district. So I think what we're trying to shake out now, and even over the coming week or two, is going to be exactly what are those lessons going to look like. What is going to be covered in lessons? There's been a lot of discussion about, do we go, we know what we've already taught to date. How much further do we want to go? Do we want to actually go back and kind of go deeper into some learning? Things that we maybe only covered at a certain level. Do we want to go deeper? Do we want to go broader? So those are the discussions that's taking place. We also have staff that are at different ends of the spectrum as well with regard to some already held, classrooms online, or they were very able to and were using, say, Google Classroom with their classes anyway before this. So they obviously have activities and can jump on quicker than someone that wasn't previously. We're trying to get a particular kind of everyone at a level of being comfortable in the district. So that is going to take time as well. I don't have any definite answers for you today as far as, what's going to make everyone happy or like what the expectation should be as far as, where we're going to be in 4 or 5 weeks. What I can tell you is that as we continue over the next week or two to flesh that out, we'll make those guidance documents available to everyone so that they can see what the expectations for students are going to be, for what teachers are going to be. But really, we're only finishing week 2 right now of this closure. This isn't something that any district had prepared for. And it's not just a switch where you go from classroom learning to online remote learning and everything stays the same. So I think people do have to realize that this is different at this point, and we need to adjust our expectations that education for the next month or two is not going to be what it is or what it was prior to this closure.
Ready to follow up?
So I understand what you're saying in terms of we need the time in order to make sure it's equitable, that we transition, and that everybody is going to get what it needs, because this is public education and that's very important. And yes, there was a huge difference between attending school in person and actually doing it online. And I think that if anybody chose actual education because they also believe in the socialization and what you learn from being in school physically, this is a great way of realizing what it means. And I think students are actually realizing what it means. But it's going to become important pretty soon and all the teachers of my 2 children have touched base with them. All of them have included me in the communications. I have truly appreciated that, and kudos to all of them. It's been tremendous. And even online yoga class this morning, I thought that was great for the wellness and physical ed class. So there's a lot of good stuff going on. And that's not a question. But I think pretty soon we're going to have to communicate out to the students. Look, we're not just doing this so that you can choose whether or not to come into that class or not this morning, sleep in or not sleep, whatever. They have to start realizing that in the next week or 2, it's going to count for something. And this is a trial period for them too, to also understand what's going on. So I think pretty soon we're going to have to communicate pretty well what the expectations are. And this could even get extended out further. I've heard that Governor Baker doesn't want to extend it out further and is very anti doing it. but it could be. And if it is, we've got to make some tough decisions. So I understand totally well what you're going through and the decisions that you have to make. And the equitable part, my goodness, we talked about the EL students, we talked about the special ed students. Everybody realizes that there's so much that goes into this public education forum. But I think pretty soon we're going to have to make people realize we're just setting it up so that it's going to count for something. And I'll go off on you.
All right, Donnie, you had a question?
Well, just a couple of things. So I was looking at the commissioner's recommendations, and I know that you're going to be meeting or speaking with the other superintendents in the area to kind of maybe come to some consensus. But he recommended that they focus on reinforcing skills already taught this school year. So I'm sure that that's something that we're going to have to take into to account as we're planning. And I think one of the things that parents are looking for, what are the expectations right now? So I understand that right now, that we're doing, enrichment and things like that. I have heard from some parents that their students' assignments are being graded, that there's due dates. Is that what we're expecting? Is it not what we're expecting? I think that parents just need some clarification on, what is happening right now, and what is it that they should be expecting their kids to be doing on a daily basis.
I can speak
Yeah.
to some of this right now.
Okay, Linda.
And,
Yeah.
some of the same questions that you have, I've heard from other people, so none of this is new. And interestingly enough, when we were looking at populating the different topics, these were exactly what we expected. So like we said, not to be reiterating the same things over and over again. Last week was our week, not this current week, was our week to just kind of get our heads around everything. We had our meeting, we trying to understand what was happening, get information, see what other people were doing. And in the same time, we had put out that one document about different learning resources for parents to access. That document is still technically in play. Yes. Do we have some teachers that had already reached out to students ahead of time? Absolutely, because we've been pushing our blended learning and one-to-one initiative. So we were already positioned as a Google district to be doing some of those things. So teachers naturally know what to do, so they started to do things. That document's still in play this week, as like Dr. Lang said, we had teachers come and pick up their devices that may have needed them. We opened up schools so they could gather as much materials as possible. We've been providing PD all week on Google Classroom and other opportunities, and teachers have been trying to populate a Google Classroom with the activities. And again, Google Classroom is not the teaching, it's the platform to house what is supposed to be happening, because we did have concerns about parents being directed to multi platforms. This is our platform. If they have to go read an article, an artifact, anything after that, they could be directed from there, but you should have a one-stop shopping. So that's where it is. And teachers are working with those G Suite tools, which include, the video conferencing similar to what we're doing now. And I can answer the Zoom piece as well, because I know somebody said they had a question around that. Google G Suites has a feature that the teachers should be using, because we own that product. We can give professional development around that product. We pay for that product. We cannot be responsible for people going to products that we do not support as a district. It's unsafe. And quite honestly, our technology department does not have time to be learning all these new apps and platforms to be at a whim for whoever decides they want to use what. We have everything we need in the district. So going back to what's happening right now, teachers are populating those classrooms, and next week, we're going to try and launch it. It's not going to be perfect because, again, we still are trying to contact some families. We're trying to find out who doesn't have access. So next week, teachers are they've already connected with their students. They're going to launch a few of these things to see what happens, get some feedback, because we have to gather that feedback from the teachers to find out what's working and what's not working through those building meetings, through those department meetings. And in the meantime, Bill Silver and his crew are working on what devices we actually have available for those students that don't have devices. So then he can put those in the management system. We can set up a whole plan next week, similar to what we did for the teachers, for students to come pick up devices. And also if they needed to get some materials out of the building in order to do some of the things that they needed, such as an instrument is a good example, because I mean, I guess if you were supposed to play for 20 minutes and you don't have your instrument, that would be difficult. We've asked the teachers to put as much things online as possible so that students don't feel compelled that if they don't have their math textbook, let's say, that suddenly they can't be part of the class. We're trying to make all these accommodations. There was an interesting comment that was made today that resonated, I know, definitely with Dr. Lang, and it's been sitting with me when he brought it back up to me. This was a health crisis, not an educational crisis. So it's turned into an educational crisis in the sense that we want to support students. We want kids to have access. We can't, it's inherent. We can't stop ourselves from doing it. So we have to have some time to build these things. And I'm understanding with Dr. Lang that it's going to take some time. And even if we have something in place, there's going to be all these nuances. So we are trying to address some of these things. There are a few things that are completely out of our control. Let's take for grading right now. We don't have all the answers. We have our guidance department working with their contacts at higher ed, because we don't know how this affects higher ed. K through 8, we have a little bit more control over, because that's for us to promote students and understand where they are placement-wise. But our high schoolers are a bit of a concern, because we can't put them in a position that's going to affect our current seniors or future students. So we are working on what that would look like for our teachers, and we're talking to the union and the teachers that actually have it. So we've got some beginning thoughts for that right now, but we're going to have to take some time and be thoughtful about it, because we can't be putting out information that this will happen, this is how it's going to go down, and then we find out it's a problem, because there's nothing worse than trying to go backwards when you've given people some information. So all of these topics that you're talking about, including AP, there's a whole directive on AP. AP is going to have online online exams. The dates are to be determined at this point. They're going to give students the option. There's 2 dates for them to be able to pick. They're going to be able to take that exam, and then AP has stopped any standards and learning from the end of March. That's what they're testing on. So the end of March and back is going to be the AP exam, nothing further. If students do want to receive a refund and they don't want to be part of it, we have a whole protocol for them to get in touch with our 2 AP people that are in charge of the whole program to get a refund, and what that looks like. That's through the College Board. SATs, we have not received any information. I do not know what's happening with SATs at this point. That would be for the College Board to get back to us as well. And for dual enrollment, we did contact MCC. Since we are concurrent enrollment in the district, meaning our students have to meet high school standards and the college standards, it is up to us as a district to make sure that if we feel as though the students have met all of the standards to get the college credit, that they would then still get the college credit. That information has already been sent out to our dual enrollment teachers. They're on it and they're working with their students. So we are very confident that our students will finish the dual enrollment classes. I'm not anticipating whether they're in a year-long one or a semester-based one. So from there, it's a little bit of planning. So we have to find out what's working. How can we move forward if we want to move forward? What would that look like? Who has access, and how can we continually support everybody step by step? So you're right, Maria, people have risen to the occasion. I mean, teachers were like, we're ready to go. And then I'm sure some others were like, oh no, what am I going to do? But they have to help each other, and they really have risen to the occasion. One of the things we're going to let parents know, because we do know that next week, if they were put out assignments, that there's going to be somebody who can't connect or something happens, they can still refer to that document that has all of those access so that kids have something to do. No one is going to be, in trouble for not getting something done. Teachers can give feedback to students, but we're not worried at this point of trying to, it's not an I get you kind of process. We're trying to make sure that we have the access first.
Okay, I just wanted to mention that Joanna Collins has now joined us, so welcome, Joanna. Just real quick, from the perspective of a teacher who's now in week 1.5 of online learning, it's like starting over. I've been teaching for 32 years, and it's like that first year of teaching. Those of you in the group that have taught, and that first year is just scramble. it's stressful on the teachers too, and they do need some time to get ready for online learning. It's a whole new ballgame. I actually had today off from my online classes, and I spent the last 5 hours getting ready for next week. So it is a different way of teaching, and you have to get ready for it. So I just wanted to mention that. Just for Linda, in terms of course selections, I know that's something that needs to take place so that you can start working that. Any plans as far as how?
Yeah,
students
so
are gonna-
course selection has actually already happened. The only thing that is missing at this point is any students that for some reason didn't do their course selection. Guidance counselors know who those students are, and their next steps would have been to, track down those students and find out why they didn't complete their course selection piece. Were they absent? What else is happening, and then make sure that they have done that. So course selection, we have the majority of our tallies, and the high school is working with the coordinators, everybody getting together to start trying to do a first build of the high school schedule. So we're not concerned about for next year course selection, because that's happened. Recommendations have happened. We know who would be wanting to go into an honors class, AP, and all of that. So that's fortunate, right, that we didn't run into the fact that we weren't in school and kids couldn't pick their courses. So right now we just have to identify the students that did not do that.
Can I say something on that? I received
hang on,
an email, today on that. So there's a deadline for that.
Was there a question there? I think
Marie had something about a deadline.
Can I say, I was just saying, what Linda's saying, we received an email today about course selection, and that if you don't have enough in there and so on, it was done.
Yeah, the course selection's done. I'm sure that they're trying to track down if students that may not have, so they have to have 70 credits. Somebody may have, like their teachers may have put them in their recommended classes, but they didn't pick their electives, right? So they might be sitting around 60 credits right now, and they still have to go pick an elective or two. So they know who those students are. This is very typical. This has nothing to do with the school closure. That was going to be their next steps, but they're just about a week behind trying to contact their students, because they're also trying to contact all students and needy families. So they're doing that simultaneously. That's why you received that message, because they're reminding people, because the kids know how to do it. Some of them just didn't do it.
All right, I just wanted to mention to so some of the shocked faces, we just keep getting messages about people leaving that aren't really leaving. So if anybody's watching at home and wondering why people are looking the way they are, but everybody's here. So John or Jeff, either one of you have any questions? No, Jeff, no, John?
John looked like he was talking. He's muted.
No, that was weird. No, I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, and Jeff, you're all set?
He's doing the same thing.
Okay, great. All right, so if we're good with that, should we move on to the next item? Jay, do you have anything else before we move on?
No, I think I just appreciate people's patience and, trying to work with us, as this is new to everyone. I just want to, stress that, there's no school district that in a matter of a week or 2 weeks can all of a sudden move from a school setting to a completely online setting and have it be seamless. I think for the most part, people really are cutting us some slack, and just appreciate the efforts of all involved. I certainly do. I don't want that to be lost in any of this. And I think, we'll work on the communication piece, and really over the next days and weeks to come, just make sure that district-wide, everyone knows what the expectations are for staff and for students, and that there's a certain, kind of minimum level of what those expectations are. There's always going to be people that go beyond them, but at least setting a framework for what people can be expecting during this closure.
Can I make one more comment
No.
about this? Okay.
Go ahead, I'm teasing.
I'm surprised you didn't mute me yet. I think, teachers are a little concerned, right? Because I did want to note that there was brought to our attention, and again, this is not something of any of our doing that we can control, but, there's been a little bit of social media discussion on there about who's doing what, how they're doing it, why they didn't get it, and they're naming teachers' names, and they're very upset. So in this trying time, they're trying to do the best they can, learn. they're picking up a monumental task and they're feeling a little harpooned. So, you know, we have to keep that in mind for our teachers. But also when we put out some information, like with whether it's minimum requirements, the requirements at that time, it's going to change. All right. Even within what, 2 weeks, which I'm even surprised I remembered it was 2 weeks because I am confused on days at this point. A lot has changed, right? And we can't be pitting everybody against each other, districts against each other. We're going to do the best we can with what we have. Please keep in mind that we've got through pretty much 3/4 of our school year. I'd be more concerned if it was the beginning of the school year. And everybody's really trying to rise to the occasion because many of our staff are doing what we're asking our parents to do at home right now. So there are many things. We have teachers that are coming back off of their leave because they know how important this is. So they're willing to give up their leave time to come back because they can and they want to be able to help. So we've got a lot of moving parts. We still have our staff in place with our interventionists. We have our coaches. So all hands on deck, and we're gonna hold hands together and launch this thing. Hopefully we just don't go down.
Great. Jonna?
Yeah, just a couple things. And Linda, I completely agree with you on this. And I'm going to say this as a teacher. This has been such an incredibly difficult time, you know, for me as a teacher, to try and figure out, you know, how to do my job, to be perfectly honest with you. You know, I think that I'm just not used to this. I'm not used to traveling at this pace. I'm not used to not having kids. You know, I'm not used to just trying to teach remotely or any of this. And, you know, and I'm certainly worried for all of our students in terms of, you know, what the impact is going to be on them. So I completely agree with you. And I think that, you know, certainly we are very grateful to the teachers in the district for everything that they're doing to reach out to kids and, you know, to stay connected and to, you know, help them negotiate this process. I'm wondering if one of the things, though, going forward is, as a district, if, you know, some of these issues that seem to be on people's minds, if we have to put out, you know, as part of our weekly communication, even if it's to say that there's been no change, for example, you know, well, I won't use AP because we just addressed that, but SATs, you know, no information available at this time, just so people know, you know, but I think that there are some common themes for people, you know, across the district about questions that they have. And I think that they deserve the communication and reassurance because I think it is such an incredibly stressful time for everybody. And I think the more that we can do to support them in that, the better off everybody's going to feel.
Okay. Should we move on to the next item?
Sure.
Okay.
Can I actually, now that Joanna has joined us, the second item
Yeah.
on the agenda this evening was, or this afternoon, just a couple of recommended budget transfers in fiscal 20. Can I ask Joanna to just walk us through those? And then there's a motion laid out at the end that you would consider.
I'm requesting 4 budget transfers that total $46,882.50. The first one is shifting budget funds from the computer services account to the instructional software account to purchase additional Chromebook licenses, and that totals $12,250. The second one is transferring between the language arts supply accounts to the textbook accounts for $4,632.50. And this is to purchase some Fontes and Pinnell benchmarking kits. The third is requesting a budget transfer from the salary reserve lane change account to the salary supervision account for $3,000. And this is because Amy Reese, the Director of Student Support Services, received her CAGS degree last year, and this budget transfer places the funds into the correct salary account. And after, if that budget transfer is approved, the lane change account still has a favorable balance of $23,551. And the fourth budget transfer is requesting a shift of $27,000 from the salary reserve COLA account to the copier administration account. And you had already approved for us a $39,960 transfer to help us purchase the new copiers because the 5-year lease had ended. And the new purchase price was, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but around $285,000, a one-time cost. But I went back and took another look at some of our costs for the rest of the months with toner and clicks on the old copiers. And I'm requesting an additional shift to cover all that for the rest of the year. And after that budget's transferred, there's still $5,013 available in the salary reserve COLA account. So does anyone have any questions on those 4 budget transfers?
Any questions? If you do, just raise your hand. Okay, can we do this as a single motion, or do we have to take them individually?
Personally, I think it's fine to take them as a package. It's up to you.
All right, why don't we just do them as a single? John, you okay with the motion?
Yeah, so I was just messaging Jay that I don't have, I only have the first page of the agenda.
Okay. Anybody have it in front of them would like to make the motion?
Yep.
Anna? Okay.
I'm gonna need a minute, Dennis.
See how easy it is now.
All right, let's see. I moved that we transfer, I'm gonna need help.
I've got it in front of me.
Okay, I do too. I'm just trying to figure out how to word it.
But you're requesting you're motioning to transfer shifting budget funds from the computer service account to the instructional software account in the amount of $12,250 to purchase additional Chromebook licenses. That's the first one.
Right, we're gonna do this as a package. Joanna, I don't have the total amount though.
So
96,000.
I recommend that the school committee vote at this meeting to approve $46,882.50 from the local operating budget as presented.
Okay, the motion is, I recommend that the school committee vote to approve a transfer of $46,882.60 in the local operating budget as it was presented by Joanna.
Any
How's that?
seconds?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Donna and a second from John. Any further questions? Anybody? In terms of the copy, oh, sorry, go ahead, Maria.
I'd like to make, because we're not doing this individually.
Right.
On the 4th item, which is about the copier transfer, I made this comment the last time this came up, and I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna make it because I can see why we're purchasing the equipment and so on. So this is a kind of unique situation. But I hate to see money being transferred from salaries into something like copiers. So I am gonna go with it this time, and I understand that there's this particular situation going on, but I'd like to see that we have a better handle on looking at something like $27,000 coming out of salaries and into something like a copier account. That's my only comment.
Jay?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but this transfer is not coming out of salaries. This was a salary reserve account. So these weren't budgeted dollars for like people's salaries that are just running short. It's the reserve account that we hold for like negotiations and things like that we're no longer using. So we're basically just moving money out of that account into the operating budget. I don't want someone to think that we're moving money out of like someone's budgeted salary account. That's like an extra account for us for our purposes for when we're negotiating.
Okay.
Okay, I understand that, but it's still about salaries. What did I get wrong there?
No, I guess that's just the way that you see it. I see it differently.
Okay,
Any other questions? I was just going to ask, if we don't expend those extra funds, since we're not using copy machines, they just become excess funds at the end of the year, I assume?
Correct.
Jay?
But what we'll end up doing is at the end of March, which is our third quarter, is typically when we'll give you the third quarter financial report, and you'll actually have the projections for all of our accounts for the end of the year. And that's typically when we also then bring a recommendation to you for our one-time spending in the current budget, so that we don't have money left at the end of the fiscal year that goes unspent. So this is when Joanna will start to kind of go through all the different accounts, do her projections on salary accounts, non-salary accounts, figure out what our excesses may be. And then we would bring forward recommendations for you to shift funds and be able to make some one-time purchases.
All right, Don, you have a question?
Jay, would we have taken that salary reserve COLA and used those towards one-time expenses at the end of the year, historically?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, they would all be scooped in after the end of the third quarter anyway, so you'd be reallocating them somewhere in the budget.
Any other questions? Okay, well, roll call vote. Maria?
I,
John?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Donna?
Aye.
And myself, aye, so that'll be 5-0, approved.
Hey, Don, I can do the rest of those budget transfers, the motions.
I think we're all done with the motions.
Did you do all four?
Yeah, we did them all together.
Okay.
All right, I think next thing's personnel.
Yes, next item on the agenda, the third one, was just the traditional personnel report for the month of February. Then this was the list of some new hires that happened, a couple of resignations, retirements, and then we had an assignment change within the district. So just reporting on those employee movements for you. No vote necessary, just acknowledging, just sharing that information with you for acknowledgement purposes.
Anybody have any questions on the personnel report? Okay, all right, any liaison reports? Anybody have anything? Donna?
Yes, I had a conference call with the executive board from CPAC, and I think a lot of their concerns were addressed. But I do really want to kind of give them a shout out, because I think that they've done a terrific job at communicating with families and offering support, as we kind of go through this process. And one thing that they did ask me to emphasize is that that this is a resource that's available to anybody in the district. So people should feel free to visit their page, because there's really some excellent ideas for supporting students through this time. So I would encourage people to look at their Facebook page or their website. The next thing is from the Senior Center, Jay, a shout out to you and to the food service people. In speaking with people from the Senior Center, they said that the food service people have been a tremendous help in making sure that the Meals on Wheels program continues, because they were very short-staffed. And I know that our food service people stepped in to be able to help out those people. So thank you to everyone for doing that. With regards to the PTOs as a whole, a lot of the PTOs had some of their big fundraisers coming up through the spring, which obviously are not happening now. I think that we can expect maybe some impact next year in terms of the enrichment programs and whatnot. And I only put that out there because they are such a tremendous support to the enrichment programming that we do in the schools. And I know that this has been a difficult time for them as well. And then finally, I reached out to Congresswoman Trahan's office regarding the reimbursement for the school lunches. And we're not the only district that's facing these difficulties, and they've heard from other districts as well. And we'll hopefully be looking into that. And then last night I participated in a town hall with Representative Govea, and we talked about first of all, how to address some of the unexpected incurred costs for school systems, and also the need for, this really highlights the need for mental health services in our school districts, and how state funding really needs to be able to address that. I think that, certainly going forward, I think that there's going to be difficulties that we can anticipate, both from, families and kids. And, it's important to have the support staff in the schools in order to be able to address those issues. So that's it from me.
All right. Anybody else? Any liaison things?
I haven't seen anybody in 8 days, so I don't have any.
I was fortunate to get the Center School Science Fair in right before everything shut down, so it was a great event. Students there as well. So kids did a great job as usual. Just kind of a follow up to Donna's. Jay, have you had any contact with our state reps in terms of some of those issues? I know you mentioned you were going to try to reach out.
Yeah, I did actually have a nice conversation with Tammy Gouveia the other day. She reached out to us to just try to find out, if there's anything she could do to help or what was happening in the district. I did talk about the food issue, how we're providing at the high school. However, we're one of those districts that does not fall above 50%, so we're technically not being reimbursed right now. Is someone on?
Nah, I don't.
That's better. I did talk about how we're not a district above 50%, so that is something that we have to keep an eye on. We're hoping for some federal legislation to be able to maybe help us out on that front. If the feds don't help, then maybe at the state level. We're not the only district in that case. At some point in time, we'll probably have some procedural votes the school committee will need to consider. I would certainly recommend that we continue to provide food for our families during these times. But ultimately, there could be a point in time where we'll need to have a discussion about that, and I'll be seeking your support to continue that. We're still hoping at some point that does change, but we talked about that a little bit. We talked about that was the one thing at the federal level. At the state level, just some guidance around, payments to staff, payments to contractors. There was a call this afternoon that I'll get some updates on to see what's happening with that at the state level. But no, just kind of, she did reach out and check up on us, which was nice. And I just conveyed some of the issues that we were trying to deal with locally. And this whole kind of just shift in thinking around, what short and long-term visions for remote learning are going to look like here in Chelmsford. But that was the big one for right now.
Thank you.
Can I ask one more?
Yeah.
I do want to echo Donna's thing. Our food service staff have been fantastic, and the senior center did reach out. We ended up sending some staff up to help them with their Meals on Wheels program. If that ever fell through, we've let them know that we would be willing to just take on the provision of that service right from our kitchen. So that program can know that that's going to continue. So that was helpful. The other thing, I don't know what the status of this yet, but Peggy Gump did reach out to me the other day, the school nurse coordinator for the schools, to see if we may be able to send some nurses to help the town health department, because they're obviously working with, assistance and phone calls and families that either are being tested or potentially identified as having the COVID coronavirus. So we are having several of our nurses also assist the town, and I think they're very happy to do that. Good, just kind of interdepartmental cooperation all across the board. I've reached out to the police and fire departments just to make sure that, they're well, and if there's anything we can do on the school side to support them too, we're there for them. So it's been fairly good all around, and I have not really had any public other meetings to report on.
Great. All right, anybody else on the liaison? No. Okay, any new items people would like to discuss? Donna?
So just going forward, I think that, and we can talk about this more, Jay, in terms of when we do our updates, just some important information, some of the thematic things that we're hearing from families that we'd be able to address in our weekly communications, even if it's to say there's no more information. And then I'm anxiously awaiting our return to school, but I don't think that that's going to be an easy process. So I know we're really in the middle of this right now and have so many things going on, but I do think that we need to start thinking about, not planning, just thinking about the whole return to school process. 'Cause I think we're going to have a lot of kids coming back who are, it's going to be a big transition for, and there's going to be a lot of anxiety. And I think that we want to make sure that, we're giving some thought to what that might look like, whether it's now, in the next several weeks or in September. I think this is a process that's going to last well into next year, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree. And it's not like we can just up on a Friday decide we're going back to school and open up Monday as usual. So that is part of our, kind of midterm plan now, which has gone to the month of April, to even our longer term plan for a complete outage and then a restart in September. To your first point about the communication piece, if there are, consistent things that you're hearing from families, will you please just drop me an email with even just like the header of what the topics are? And I can try to make sure that they're being communicated either at the district or school level for consistency purposes.
All right, any other new items? Maria, sorry.
Okay, so on the communication piece that John has mentioned several times, I think it's really important that if you can consistently just have topics, and even if you have no updates on it, just say no updates. So for example, grading or what's going to be required or not required in courses for curriculum. Those types, just as standard things as a regular update. So that is one thing. The other thing is, if we're going to continue these meetings, and probably our next meeting is in this forum as well, it would be nice to have a couple of presentations. I was thinking of something like what is EL doing in terms of with its students during this transition, what's happening in terms of the impact on special ed, technology, curriculum, so we could have some exact reports from people. It would be nice to, and not do away with those, even though we're in this type of forum.
I don't want to, let me think about that. I don't want to just kind of jump the gun on this one, but I'm going to be quite honest with you that our coordinators in the district have absolutely no bandwidth right now to be able to put extra reports together or, be able to, even sign on to these meetings. Our teleconferences with the state have been, they started at 8:30 this morning, and we were able to squeeze this one in, but I've got to get on a different call at 2:30. People are absolutely out straight, just kind of working on the facts at hand. So whether that's putting computers in kids' hands or supporting teachers and whatnot, I don't want to pull from them to have them kind of putting together extra reports for us. What I can work with them on is maybe if there are different, like from their departments, communications that they're already sending out, I could maybe, kind of streamline those into a document that I can share with you that touch on the different things that they're doing. But Again, I will think about this, but I don't want to just commit to having a bunch of people join these meetings with the traditional reports that we typically do, because that really is just going to take away from work that they're doing during the regular day. And I just, people are at their absolute capacity at this point.
All right, Donna, you have something else?
I think it's important that we also emphasize that parents should be communicating with us. I know this is a really stressful time, and they're trying to figure out how to manage, helping kids across grade levels. They may be caring for sick members of the family or parents of their own that they're, responsible for. I think it's our responsibility to make sure that we continue to do this in a fair, equitable, and mostly important, reasonable way. I don't think anybody's looking to penalize kids. Obviously, a lot of these issues are out of their control. And I think whatever support that we can offer going forward, all being mindful that parents are working and, have responsibilities inside and outside the home. I think the more that we can do that and the more compassion we can show, each other in that process, the better off we're going to be as a community. Anybody else?
It's been mentioned. Go ahead, Maria.
Can I make one final comment?
Sure.
I just want to honestly say that this week has been immense with staff. I have seen it firsthand. They have truly communicated. They have done their utmost best, I think, on an individual basis. There is no question. I think as a whole, on the communication end, what Don has been saying throughout the meeting, I'll say it as well. I think it's very important for the district, for you, Jay, to communicate out regularly. Your principals are starting to do that as well. And there has been, from the school that I'm dealing with personally as a parent, there's been tremendous communication. I think from the district as a whole, it would be important. And I'd like to just comment on what you said in terms of taking time away from coordinators. Totally understood on that end. Maybe we should move this meeting again to the evenings, which is what we were doing before. Whatever you think is best in terms of giving it enough time. And I'd like to just stress once again, I think that it has been a tremendous amount of cooperation to date. It's just that we're moving it into the next level of things. And so people are communicating those things to us, and we in turn need to communicate them to you. It's not negative thought, is my point.
Yeah, and I would just, from my perspective on the communication, again, we're trying the absolute best we can. If there are things that you want communicated or you're hearing consistently from people, please send me an email with the topics and I will try to address them in the communications because you may be hearing from different people or certain constituent groups or certain schools or grade levels of teachers. So just drop me a note somehow to let me know what you feel isn't being communicated so that I can try to roll it into a communication, whether it comes from me or the school or both of us. Just give me like the headers of what you think people are asking, or people are asking you for things that they don't have. Just shoot me that note so that I can try to incorporate that into a future communication.
All right, this kind of segues into what I was going to bring up. How often do you want to meet at this point? Do you want to go to a weekly meeting? I mean, traditionally we've been in every 2 weeks. Do we want to have updates every Friday and meet just to find out? Because as Linda said, it's going to change. We're always getting new information. What does the group feel is an appropriate number of meetings to have? How often that meet? That type of thing. What days are good? Is Friday afternoons good? Usually it looks like the information comes out during the week. So usually by the end of the week, we have the information, hopefully the newest information. So what have people thought on that?
The commissioner updates come out on Wednesdays, right, Jay?
This particular week, I'll be honest with you, they've been a little bit all over the place. We typically have a standing call with the commissioner's office on Friday mornings. So like this morning, he actually had an 8:30 with us, and then there was a follow-up at 10 o'clock with us. So yeah, I mean, usually Fridays is when we get that. The written directives or the written guidance has been all over the place. So it happened to, we got something this Wednesday. I don't think we received anything in writing the week prior. So that's all situational. From my perspective, if I can weigh in for a second, I think we probably should get back to holding some kind of regular business meeting, just because, and I'm trying to do this even with our own staff, as much as we're all caught up in the, this kind of response to the whole coronavirus and school closure right now, we still need to create some normalcy in our regular business routines and the regular business we would normally be conducting. So I don't know if we want to think about, scheduling a regular meeting, whether it's monthly or keep the 2 times a month, whatever they end up being, for kind of business items. And then I don't mind doing these like check-in type meetings, whenever you want to. It's, if it's weekly, if it's bi-weekly, whatever the group decides is fine with me. But just to have there be an expectation about like certain meetings kind of being our business meetings where we would bring forward like your transfers and things like that, and not necessarily have those just kind of be all over the place, even for the viewing public, so that they know when we're kind of conducting real business and when we're just coming on to give an update.
Other thoughts, John?
The only comment I would make is that during the day is particularly hard. I don't know if it's for anybody else, but so if we do have regular meetings, which I think we should have, we should probably look at more traditional times for school committee meetings. I have 2 kids and I work from home, so it's kind of tough to do during the day.
I would prefer we go back to our Tuesday meetings.
Yeah.
I agree. We should go
Weekly
back
at
to
this point, I'm okay with that. I really am, but to Jay's point, I think that we do have business that we have to take care of. I think the updates are important. But I think, if we can get back into the regular routine of our meetings, I think that would be best.
Second.
Our next meeting right now on the calendar is the 14th. Do we need to meet before then for business, Jay? Is the things that are pending that we need to probably handle like next week or?
Well, I didn't, could you, just for a second, what actually happened with the, like the town election? Is that going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Do we know? I know there's no contested races, but like, do we know when the new committee is officially going to be established, or
It's
what has
pushed out
the
to
guy?
the beginning of June. I'm sorry, Jay, I apologize. I believe that they decided that it was going to be pushed out to June 2nd. Let me just double check real quick. That would be the town elections. Let's see here. Town elections are June 2nd and town meeting is June 22nd
Oh,
at
really?
this time.
Okay. I mean, no, next week we're already into April 1st. We weren't going to meet until the 2nd for our reorganization. So, well, no, actually, we would technically meet on Monday the 7th, Tuesday the 7th.
No, I think we didn't because that's the election. That would have been the election. So we pushed it before.
Oh,
So that's what I'm saying. Do we need to meet before that for business stuff? We want to meet on the 7th or?
well, I tell you what, if now that you say that, I remember that. Why don't we go back to the traditional 1st and 3rd? Particularly if there's no election on the 7th. Do you want to just do Monday the 7th and, I'm sorry, Tuesday the 7th and Tuesday the 21st?
That's fine with me. It's during school vacation. That's what we usually avoid that, but I don't think that really matters at this point.
Yeah.
Anybody else's thoughts on that?
Those work fine for me.
I'm not going anywhere. I don't think many people are going to be doing anything.
No.
This is in the evening.
Yeah, do the traditional 6 o'clock on Tuesday the 7th and Tuesday the 21st. And we can kind of repost those and push those out. I think that would only give us a week, Dennis, on issues that come up. And anything that happens to come up between now and next Friday, we can just put on the agenda for the 7th.
Okay. All right. Is that everybody okay with that? Going to the 7th and the 21st for regular? Do we want an update in between it all, like a quick Friday meeting like this, or want to just wait till the 7th? And I don't know what people's thoughts are there.
I think the key is that if we are going to need an update, then we should set up a regular meeting because people are contacting all of us. And it's better to be giving out the same type of information and we're all getting the same type of information. So I would suggest that, if we are going to be doing something like an extra meeting once a week, this type of meeting just for information purposes, then we should do it all together.
Other thoughts?
Well, our next meeting is not next Tuesday, Tuesday after, right? Correct?
Right.
So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with letting it go for the week because I think we have so many things that we're trying to roll out. I think it would be almost premature to, maybe get into a discussion about those things until we see how they're going.
That would then make that meeting on the 7th then a business meeting and an update meeting. Just
Yes.
Well,
So a
I'll
lot
put a
to-
regular update on those meetings anyway.
okay. All right. So everybody comfortable with that? We'll just hold off to the 7th and meet at our regular time on the 7th at 6 o'clock, and we'll conduct regular business and also get updates.
That works for me.
Is that good for everybody? Okay. All right. So, all right. Anybody else have any other items that they would like brought up? Okay. Did anybody get any further public comment? Any emails? I know I did not.
I did not.
Okay.
What do you mean from emails on emails that we received or texts, things like that?
During the meeting. So we made it, we are live, so we did make an announcement. If anybody had questions, they could email into the meeting. So I don't know if anybody got any emails. Looks like not. Okay. All right.
No, I didn't get any.
Okay, great. So I believe that's it. If everybody is comfortable, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Okay, so John Moses made the motion and Donna Newcomb second. So Maria,
Aye.
Donna,
aye.
Jeff, and John,
Aye.
and I. So 5-0 to adjourn the meeting. Okay. Well, thank you all very much, and we'll see you all again on the 7th.
Thank you.